Hello, hello. I'm back with another video regarding Nabeel Qureshi's amazing book, No God But One. And today, actually will be a little bit more controversial, if it already hasn't been, because today is more about the Quran as well as Muhammad, who is the prophet of Muslims believe to be a prophet in Islam. And it's Today's video is going to be more controversial because it's really more the investigation of what Nabeel was experiencing when he was trying to figure out the real truth of Islam and the real truth of Christianity in an objective viewpoint. So I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it now because it's relevant. Objective viewpoint means that the learner is trying to really figure out the knowledge and logic behind a topic with an objective viewpoint, meaning that there's no biases, there's no preconceived notions. It's as if no one knew anything about it. So they didn't know anything about it, but they're pretending like they don't know, um, they don't have attachments to that. Nabeel, was trying to research Christianity as well as Islam in this viewpoint, rather than a subjective viewpoint. Subjective viewpoint means that the person has attachments and has biases towards it. So that was just kind of a side note that's important to take note of because he already obviously had biases towards Islam and against Christianity, but in order to really delve into the truth of the matter, he had to be an objective observer. So these today is going to be more based on that, and I'm excited to give some information to you because it is really interesting and it really kind of hones in onto Nabil's conversion. This is also in the first book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, but it's also kind of more stated and more explained in No God But One. So I'm going to start off with Muhammad. And as I've stated before, Muhammad was a man in Arabia, and he was the prophet that Allah chose. In Islam, we believe he was the prophet that Allah chose to kind of receive the divine word from Gabriel the angel. This is going to counter that, so bear with me because this is what Nabeel has researched and found. So I'll start off with saying, when Muhammad received his very first revelation, Muhammad reacted very strangely. He became suicidal. He intended several, and this right here is quoted from Hadith of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So that right here, as I state, this is from the Hadith. He intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains, and every time he went up to the top of a mountain in order to throw himself down. So basically, that's kind of like the general gist of the this hadith. And he became suicidal. It wasn't like a joyful presence. Obviously, something probably demonic was happening, and not like a spiritual experience that most people, Muslims or anybody, would really perceive it to be. So Nabil further states, no prophet in the Old Testament or New Testament ever became suicidal after seeing an angel. Again, so if it's a real like good angel, should not have these experiences or feelings. The spiritual being was called Namus. Namus grabbed hold of Muhammad and squeezed him so vehemently that he could not bear it. To the objective observer, it sounds like a violent episode and not at all like an angelic encounter. So that's kind of just part of what Nabeel has found and states and writes about and explains further in his book, Nugabat 1, regarding Muhammad. I wanted to kind of go another branch off of this from another book. So I'm only doing Nabeel's book, but this one, like statements about Muhammad and just kind of like the encounters that he had with the angel that, Gabriel or not Gabriel, remind me of something else. And I was recently reading about exorcists, exorcism. If you don't know, it's a practice with priests. Catholic priests can do exorcism on people who have demonic spirits in them so they can get released out. And I was reading something that really struck me and it related to what Nabeel was saying and researching and finding about Muhammad's experience with this. And this is a part in the book of this exorcism book that's different, but it relates to this, and it's the gifts of Satan. And I just thought I would share this with you because it's really relevant and made me think more about it. So, um, let's see where I want to start with this. Um, all right, so Satan has the authority to give certain powers to his faithful. Since the devil is truly a liar, at times those who receive these powers either are not or do not want to be aware of their origin. They are all too happy to receive these free gifts. It may happen that one person is given the gift of clairvoyance. Others, simply by sitting in front of a blank piece of paper with pen in their hands, are able to write page after page of spontaneous messages. Yet others feel that they can bilocate and that part of them can enter buildings even far away. It is very common for many to hear a voice that at times suggests prayers and at other times anything but prayers. So that's from this Exorcist book. Kind of made me relate back to what Nabeel was stating about Muhammad's experience. Also, um, relating more to this um, encounter and kind of what it really means and really understanding it for what it is. I'm going to state that Nabeel was just really interested in knowing the truth. That's why he was so eager to convert and really know as a objective observer what Christianity really stands for, what does it really mean, as well as Islam and the backbone of each religion. Being a Muslim that he was from birth, it was super hard, I'm sure, to really experience some of these things that he was finding because it wasn't all taught obviously in his religion or found out or a lot of it was oral through oral like his knowledge of his faith of Islam was really more from his like parents and his community, and it was passed down. So a lot of like research, as he states in his book, I'm not saying all Muslims, I'm just saying for his perspective that I know of from reading his book and reading his perspective, he got a lot of insight and knowledge from his parents just telling him instead of just like really researching and reading on his own. That's why a lot of this is really shocking. It was really shocking for him. So I'm going to continue what he says in his book. Muhammad said that he had been a victim of black magic. He had delusional thoughts of doing things he had not done, and he confused demonic inspiration with divine inspiration, saying Satan had put Quran verses into his heart, which he then used in prayer. So again, it kind of relates to what I just was reading about with exorcism and Satan and kind of the dealings with that. So again, pretty surprising things, controversial, of course. Um, what else? This is related to Muhammad regarding like war um, and some interesting encounters and information as well that Nabeel finds. Muhammad enthusiastically embraced warfare. He said that fighting is the best thing in the world. Nothing earns a Muslim more reward than fighting in jihad, which I think it literally means or translated as holy war, but I'll probably talk about that in another video. Topic for later. And it is better than praying without ceasing and fasting perpetually. Muhammad taught that dying in battle is so great that it is the only thing that would make a man want to leave heaven. So obviously he values very much fighting, war, violence. There are actually specific verses in the Quran that deal with fighting and violence and things like that that I guess aren't really perceived as being peaceful. This is directly stated from Muhammad that Nabeel finds. I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave any but Muslim. So no tolerance of other religions, of other faiths. Um, and then Nabeel states, if they became Muslim, would they save their lives and property from Muhammad? How could we argue that Muhammad was so peaceful that it proved his um, prophetic status? Okay, so something else that's interesting here regarding Muhammad and warfare and violence and really believes about to be Islam and what the main root of it is. Although a lot of people Muslim or not, would probably argue against this, but this is what Nabeel found, and I encourage you to read his book so you can get more information than what I'm just stating here. And last thing I'll talk about regarding Muhammad that was controversial, but something else that Nabeel found, and this is regarding women, the treatment of women. Muhammad allowed for prostitution through the institution of temporary marriage. When he was 52 years old, he consummated his marriage with his 9-year-old bride and said women will be the majority of hell's inhabitants because they are ungrateful to their husbands. And Nabeel kind of concludes this as saying, um, we cannot conclude Muhammad's character is excellent enough to prove he is a prophet of God. Okay, so that's kind of all I wanted to kind of talk about today and state regarding Muhammad, his character, who he was, and the information as an objective viewpoint that Nabeel found, that he states further in his book, No God But One. I will see the next video with me, kind of delving more, explaining more of Nabeel's spiritual faith journey, conversion story. All right, hope you enjoy. All right, bye.